It's so easy to see ourselves in the story of David and Goliath, to think if I could just be like David, I could fight the giants in my life. The giant of fear, rejection, anger, addiction. We all have a giant, that's the bad news. But here's the good news. We are not David. The story of David is really the story of Jesus, the one who has slayed every giant for your good and for his glory. Goliath must fall.
Yay!
Is that your yay dance?
I'm asking parents and teachers and coaches and counselors to do something totally different.
My name's Brent.
Hi, I'm Clay.
My name is Rachel. Hey, everybody. My name's April.
I'm loud. I like getting alone time.
Gas stations are very sketchy.
Does everything have to be a competition? And I'm like, yes, and I'm going to win.
It is uncanny how her stomach aches coincide with we need to clean up the kitchen.
With my students, I want them to pay attention and take my lead.
He said this, I said that. Why would he say that? Did I say this wrong?
Every word you speak should be a gift to the person that you're speaking to.
I like hearing good things about myself from someone else.
I like to hear, like, good job, well done.
Those little comments stick with me all the time.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a lie from the pit of hell.
It's a framework of communication that has the power to change every single conversation that you have with a child. If you learn this approach, discipline will be easier. Teamwork will be easier. Parenting will be easier. Teaching will be easier. I've seen it happen over and over and over again.
Well, good morning, Rich. Let's stand up and worship the Lord together. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Yeah. mercy has saved my soul, and your freedom is all that I know. The old made new, Jesus, when I met you, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. I'm so grateful this is our story this morning. I need a rescue, my sin was heavy, the chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on.
All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to Ridge Church. Why don't you guys take just a moment, if you would, to greet somebody around you. Tell them good morning. Maybe introduce yourself. Say you made it. You made it through the chaos. Then after that, you can grab a seat. I want to say welcome to those of you joining us online, those of you in the Collective Cafe. It's good to have you with us as well. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope you're well. You know, Olympics are ending today. Are any of you sad about that? Somebody like, what, the Olympics were happening? I didn't even know. All right, call it out. What is your favorite winter Olympic event? And I want to start with those of you in the cafe. We installed a video camera and audio feedback, so you guys go. You ready? I'm just kidding. We didn't install one of those. I was kind of hoping you guys yelled something out. All right, for you guys over here, favorite... See, that was my prediction. Curling was going to be the... Is that like, is just because it's entertaining, because they're such stellar athletes? Is that it? Okay, all right, let's see. In this... Speed skating, and what else? I don't even know what that is. Is that where they ski and shoot stuff? Weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it is so fascinating to watch if that's it. Did you guys see that floating? I wasn't just waving in the air. All right, over here. Hockey. That's going on right now. Do not watch that during my sermon later. All right. What else over here? Half pipe. All right. Skiing or snowboarding? Snowboarding. Me, I'm with you on that. All right. Speed skating. No one did anybody say that? All right. Somebody said that? All right. That's good. Good. Do you guys know how many medals the U.S. won? Me either. Have no idea, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Hey, we are so glad that you guys are here today. And my name's Chris. I get to be one of the pastors around here. In just a moment, these guys are going to continue to lead us in worship and just in song. I'm actually starting a series today called Breathing Room, which is something that pretty much none of us in this world have. And so we want to create a little bit of breathing room even before the message, just to worship. But I want to give you just a couple things that are happening around here. One of them is really one of the desires, one of the things that we want for every single one of you. It's what I want for myself. It's what I want for my kids. It's what we want for our culture. And that is for you to make some connections. You know this. Depending on the seat in life that you sit in, you may know it more. Depending on the age of your kids, you may realize it more. But we live in the most digitally connected generation in human history, yet the most lonely, struggling with human connections. And so we just say, man, as a church, as often as we can, we want to make as many easy opportunities as we can for people to move from sitting in these rows, and we're so grateful for this environment. But to finding your circle, to finding a group of people that you can know. Content is everywhere. Connections, though, and conversations are becoming more and more rare. And so I want to give you just two things to be thinking about. Everything that we talk about on a Sunday morning, if you're new here, you can find it on our QR code. In fact, if you're new here, you can let us know that you're new and grab a gift at Guest Services. That's all on the QR codes that are on the back of your chairs. But one of the things that's coming up is called the If Gathering. This is for women only, and this is a simulcast that we do. I think this is the third year running, and I would just encourage you. This is a great time, again, to catch your breath, to meet a few people and just kind of engage. If you're not already signed up for that, I highly encourage it. The second one is happening next Sunday. It's something we call group launch. Now, we have two types of groups at Ridge. We have long-term groups, and then we have what we call short-term groups. Most of those are anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. And so I've been talking about them generally. I want to talk about them specifically, or at least show you the different ones. You can hit that QR code and see descriptions of all these. And what I'm going to do is today, after the message, I want to take just a moment before you guys head to your cars, and I want to give you a little bit of a description of some of these. But again, you can look at the QR code. There's all different kinds of studies. We will launch these based on interest, and there are limits to a lot of them. 2 of them have childcare options. The rest of them do not have on-site childcare options. But there's so many different groups, men's groups, women's groups. All the content is incredible. And so highly encourage you, if you're not connected right now, that you take the step, get connected. Some of you have said, hey, I'm interested in groups. If you want to go one specifically and find one specifically you're interested, you can. And then next week, 10 minutes after each service, we'll have group leaders out, we'll have the curriculum out, and an opportunity for you to sign up. You can go ahead and sign up now. You can talk to someone next week, talk to the people around you and say, hey, do you want to be in a group, and sign up whenever you'd like to. But again, those are 2 opportunities for us just to stay connected, and we think that's a really big deal. I want to mention one more thing, then we'll go back to worship. We talk a lot. If you've been around our church, if you're new to it, you'll hear this a lot. But if you've been around, you've heard this a lot. We talk about who and what we're for. So we talk about the next generation. We talk about the marginalized. And so much of what we do aims in the direction of the groups of people that we're for, our dollars. And so we added something. We have the Collective Cafe as a venue. Again, they're meeting in there right now that we have on site. They can buy coffee in there every single week. And one of the things that we've done from the very beginning is we provide coffee on Sunday mornings. Now, what I'm going to say, this may surprise some of you, and others of you are like, no, it's not a surprise because I know my own Starbucks bill, but we pay about a little over $2,000 a year to provide coffee, and we're happy to do that. I think it's a really big deal, especially if you're new somewhere, coming in, grabbing a cup of coffee, and having something in your hand as you're looking around and figuring out. All of that's a really big deal, but we just started saying, man, what if we could reallocate a little bit of that to the bottom line of mission? To the groups of people we're for some of the people that we're serving. And so we added a tip option out there, and we only did that for that very reason. We're like, man, what if $500 of that, or $1,000, or perhaps the entire $2,000 could now become something that supports those that we're for? And I'll give you a really practical example. One of our partner organizations that we write checks to monthly is called Renown Collective. They do work all over the globe, really, but specifically in sub-Saharan Africa, putting in clean water, but they have all kinds of initiatives that spring up from that. And so there's a group that has created a coffee brand called Lamarck Coffee, and it comes out of Uganda. And we're going to partner with them on this, at least for a little while, to kind of give an opportunity. What they do is they give an opportunity for pregnant moms that otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity. They give them job skills. They give them opportunities to work to harvest the coffee. They give them job training and skills and opportunities, and then the resources that come through this Lamarck go right back into that community. And so it's a really cool initiative. In fact, today as you leave, we're going to have some tasters of that so you can taste it, and then we're going to provide it for the next several weeks as a part of our coffee, and then we're going to have it available in our 4 store. And so that's just an example that everything we do is tied to mission, and is an opportunity to give back to our local community and really to the global community that we're a part of. And so thank you guys on that note. I'm so grateful. Last week we talked about generosity and gave an update, and you guys have been incredible. So for those of you that have been generous to this place, thank you for that. For those of you that will choose it in the days ahead, it really does matter. In fact, in just a few moments after the band and just before I come back, you'll hear one of the stories that's one of our baptism stories is just one of the many reminders of the mission at work and your generosity. And when you give, you become a part of those stories. And so, again, I want to say thanks for being here. And I want to take a breath. Again, I'm starting this series called Breathing Room. And as I was preparing for this, it was so challenging because none of us have it. And so I wanted to take just a few moments before we get to the message today to just exhale and just kind of put our eyes and our attention and our focus on God and just see what God might say to us and create some breathing room in our own lives. So if you would, I want you to stand with us for a moment. I want to pray for us, and then the band's going to lead us in a little bit of worship. Father, we thank you for your mercy. I thank you that your mercies are new every single day. And God, I just pray, there are people that came in this morning with burdens that I can't begin to imagine, with complexities, with busyness. God, some coming in celebrating the highest of highs, some coming in carrying the lowest of lows. And in these moments, in the mountaintops and in the valleys and everywhere in between, you invite us to take a breath and to realize that you are God and that you can be trusted. And so for just a moment, or a few moments together, I pray that we would be able to worship you, that even the words that we sing about the God that we're singing to begin to reframe our minds. We love you. We desperately need you in this moment. We just take a moment to say, we want to breathe and we want to experience you. In Jesus' precious and powerful name we pray. Amen.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing the goodness of my God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as my Father, and I've known you as my friend. Oh, I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yeah. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's is running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now, and I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing it. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I'm gonna sing. It's nice to have some space, isn't it? Just to be able to breathe. And remember that you're just a human being. Just a little human. Just a person. And we all need breath the same. So let's make room for that. Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you, Jesus, to do whatever you want to, do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you, to do whatever you want to, and do whatever you want to. Have your way here on earth as in heaven. Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want, to have your way, to do whatever you want to. Yes, I will make room all my religion. Your way is better. I know it is. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Lord, do whatever you want to. Have your way. Oh, Jesus, have your way. Here is where I lay it down. Lord, you are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. So shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Lord, your way is better than mine. So shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Lord, your way is better. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Lord, do whatever you want to. Oh, I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Lord, do whatever you want to. Lord, there's no amount of space that could contain all of who you are. And all of that at the same time, when we breathe in, it's by your goodness, it's by your grace. So every breath has you in it. And this morning, we just want to acknowledge that it's easy to forget that you're nearby, Lord, but you're closer. You're closer still than we've ever known. And I pray that would cause us to have a sigh of relief to know that help is always near. You're in the midst. You dwell, you're close. So I pray we would breathe sweetly today and make room for you to change things. Ask you questions like, do you enjoy this? Is this how you want it to be? And we'd be willing. We'd be moldable. We'd be humble-hearted and ready for you to answer because you're a God who speaks. And this morning, we declare that we love you. We trust you. Help us in the ways that we don't trust you already. We bless you. And we say thank you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, good morning again. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. They're going to play a video. And this testimony is very near and dear to the heart of Ridge and anything like it.
Hi, my name is Jake Lee. I grew up in the church. I grew up Methodist. Both my parents were taught Sunday school. They did the youth group. So at a very young age, I asked Jesus to come into my heart. And I having always grown up in the church, it was always there. But I would ask him again and again, just to make sure that it took. So I've always had him there, but almost like in a childlike way. So when I went off to college, I really stopped going to church. I still believed, but as I was away from the church, could tell I was starting to stray. And I was kind of that way for a while. Just didn't have, any real people around me. I mean, my family, sure, but, I wasn't doing anything on a weekly basis to, be around God with other people. I was kind of in a difficult season in my life, and I was searching for answers. I had gone to one of Andy Stanley's churches when I was in grad school, and I heard him talk about some stuff, so I looked up some things to kind of give me answers to, from a biblical perspective to kind of what I was dealing with. And it was like I knew that God was trying to tell me something, but I did not know what it was. And he was kind of screaming at me kind of loud. And then when COVID hit, I really just, everything kind of happened all at once. And I started taking walks just to get out of the house, and I started listening to some podcasts, some Andy Stanley podcasts, and I would listen to a couple of those every day when I walked, and kind of when I got to the end of all those, I had found out about Ridge, and I started listening to their podcast on the app. And I kind of did that for about a year until I finally decided to come to Ridge in person. I remember I enjoyed the sermon, and I came back next week with my kids, and they loved it. They really enjoyed it. And that was really important to me because I wanted it to be something that, they enjoyed as well. So that kind of solidified that for me that this was going to be my church. After, I guess, another year, I joined a group, a men's group, and that really, having that group of guys that we meet on a weekly basis and being able to talk about everything and kind of Christ-centered solutions to everything really means a lot. Yeah, I think one of the main things when I started coming here and participating and making it a weekly routine and making it a priority in my life, that I started seeing the world kind of differently, more with, less confusion, more confidence, that God was there with me, and that whatever was going on in my life, that he was there with me, and it was his will that was happening. And when you have that outlook, I think it helps you have more confidence that, okay, well, this isn't great that's happening, but it's as part of his plan. My name is Jake Lee, and I want to let the world know that I'm a Jesus follower, and that's why I'm getting baptized.
Jake, do you believe in Jesus?
I do.
Do you believe that he has died and rose again and removed your sins from you?
I do.
On that confession of faith, I'm going to baptize you.
if you weren't stressed before you came to church, you're stressed now. Confession up front, my wife and I sometimes race. Not in the car. If you're a police officer, it's fine. And not on foot. I'm too old for that, unless somebody's chasing us. But here's what I mean. From the time that we park in the driveway of our house to the time that we're wearing stretchy pants or sweatpants or even pajamas, that, my friends, is a race. And it is a race, if I can just a little further in the confession, that I rarely win. My wife is the gold medal winner most of the time. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So you get home from work, long day of work. Some of you work at home, so it doesn't count for you. You're wearing stretchy pants, comfortable pants, sweatpants all day. But you get home from work and you're like, the quickest you can get into something comfortable. Or you go to a wedding and you're in the wedding outfit and you're like, man, I got to get in something comfortable. Or after Thanksgiving meal, you need some stretchy pants to get in something comfortable, not you, but someone you know. And the reason that we do all of this, the reason that we need this is so that we have this, so we have breathing room. So that we have a little bit of space to kind of exhale, a little bit of space to relax, a little bit of comfort. We need some space, honestly, every once in a while just to breathe. A little bit of space to breathe. And let me just say, most of us here in this room, when it comes to our life, we have none of that. We do not have breathing room. We do not have space to exhale. Most of us here in the culture that we live in and the lives that we live, everything's redlined. I mean, we've pushed everything to the edge. We don't have any margin. We don't have any margin in our dollars. We don't have any margin in our time or our schedules. We don't have any margin in our emotions, which is why there's so much road rage and social media rage. You're like, by the time you get on the highway, you're like, I'm already done. We don't have margin, and it pushes us to the limit and pushes us to the edge. And in many cases, I would just say that our lack of breathing room is crushing us. Sometimes it's crushing our relationships because there's no margin in the relationship to deal with things, and so little things become big things. It's crushing us financially. For many of us, it's affecting our physical health because you're on the run so far, so fast, you don't have time to do anything healthy, and so it's whatever you can do quick and convenient. Again, it's crushing us oftentimes, not only in our relationships, but in our emotional health. But here's the thing. Living life with no breathing room has become the norm. It's just what we do. And there are a lot of reasons, some of it's the pace of the culture around us. We just kind of come to terms with hey, this is just how we operate. This is how we move. This is what life is like. Maybe it feels necessary. Maybe you would say, hey, look, this is what we have to do to keep up. If I don't do this, then my kids are going to miss out on opportunities. If I don't do this, then I'm going to miss out on opportunities at work or in my professional life. We just feel like we get caught in the grind. And so what we do is we rinse and repeat, and we do it over and over and over again. Not because we think it's how we want to be, but we've just accepted it as the norm. And here's what I would say. It doesn't have to be that way. Now, there are two types of people in the world. Let me make it a little more narrow. There are two types of people in our culture specifically, and you'll know who you are and who you're sitting with as soon as I say it. There are those who park their car in the garage, and their garage is neat and tidy and organized, and it might even have the floor painted, and you could eat off the floor. I'm pretty sure those tires would be Armor-All like this. There's that kind of person. And then there's also the kind of person whose garage looks like it's on the verge of becoming a garage sale at any given moment. And no one has ever parked in this garage. Now, I am the garage sale version of this. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel. I will say this is not my garage. The reason that I didn't use a picture of my garage is because I've been married long enough to know better than to do that. So I thought instead I will shame some random person online. So if this is your garage, congratulations. It looks amazing, right? So you know who you are. You know which one you are. But here's the deal. Almost 2 years, my wife and I have been in a new house. We built a couple of years ago. Almost 2 years. I have never parked in the garage, not one time. The previous house we lived in, we were there 14 years. In the 14 years, this is being generous. 14 years, I would say maybe 6 months of that time was there space to park in the garage. And that 6 months, for a little while, I had a 2-door Jeep, and I would take the doors off the Jeep, and I just wanted it to be inside so I didn't have to put the doors back on all the time. So we cleared out just enough space to shimmy in. It was almost like a parallel parking in there where you could just barely get, I'd have to try 3 times before the garage sensor would allow me to get the vehicle in the garage. And that was kind of my life. Now, I realize that me describing this as my way of life makes some of you feel better about your life. I realize that. You're like, well, at least we're better than the pastor. Maybe I'm not better than my neighbor. My neighbor's garage, I've seen that, but I'm better than the pastor. Others of you hear me saying this, and now you have a little bit of reservation about my ability to deliver a sermon, which I understand, and I receive that. Others of you, you're just looking at this with extremely high levels of anxiety on the border of a panic attack. Now, here's where I'm going. This is my point in all of this. It is one thing for your garage to look like this. It's not ideal, but come on, in the big scheme of things, it's also not that big a deal. I know it needs to be organized, it needs to be structured or whatever, but this is really not that big a deal. But if this is your life, it's not okay. If our lives are cluttered, if there's no organization to our life, if there's no space to our life, no one walks into this garage and goes, I can just relax. Again, it just creates stress. I remember significant seasons of my life avoiding my garage altogether because when I walked in there, it took me a while to realize it was happening, but I had this low-grade anxiety just every time I walked in. This doesn't create that. And when this is our life, when there's no breathing room, when there's no, it's not okay. And when our lives are that way, and again, let me just say, I'm not preaching to you, I'm preaching with you in this series. This is for most of us, this at some level, and we all run at different paces, but we all live in the same culture. For most of us in this room, this is the nature of our life. Even if we've normalized it and explained it away, this is how we are. And there's no breathing room, and when there's no breathing room, let me tell you what happens. Small things become big things. When you have no breathing room financially, small things become big things. The check engine light comes on. If you got some margin, you got a safety fund, it's still an inconvenience, it's still an annoyance, but if you have no money and the check engine light comes on, it's not just inconvenient, it is nuclear. Same thing in your relationships. If there's no margin and we're running so fast and there's no margin in our schedules and we're running so fast and then we have a little dust up with the people in our life. I remember the biggest dust up I had with a roommate was over finances, something in that arena. We have these little things, these little dust ups, but when there's no margin, it becomes 2 days of silent treatment. Where you're living with a roommate, but you're trying to avoid them. You're trying not to even get coffee at the same time. That's what happens when there's no margin. The stress goes up. When there's no margin, when you're running late. None of us would do this, but when someone is running late and you hit a red light, stress goes up. When the person waits at the yellow light instead of zooms through so you can zoom through behind them, our stress goes up. So here's what I want to do. For the next few weeks, I want to talk about breathing room, but I want to talk about it from God's perspective because God actually has a lot to say about this idea. And I'm going to talk about God's perspective as it applies to, with this idea of breathing room, as it applies to several different areas of life. But here's what I want to do. I want to say, first of all, I have not mastered these. These are challenging, and so we can be in the challenge together, and we can be in the challenge and the invitation of God's word together in this series. But what I want to do today is I want to give a biblical framework. I want to give a little bit of an overview, kind of to walk us into our need for this, but then I want to give a biblical overview or framework for this, and I want to start by just giving a working definition. And we're going to use this throughout this entire series, but a working definition for breathing room. It's just a made-up definition, but this is kind of going to be what we're using. So breathing room is the space between our current pace, whatever we're running in all the different areas of life, relationships, schedule, finances. It's the space between our current pace and our current limits. And we all have limits. And the breathing room is what helps keep us from getting to our actual limit. So, for example, breathing room is leaving 10 minutes early so that you don't have to speed. Some of you are like, well, why would I do that? I kind of like speeding, right? Right now, my wife and I, the majority of the time, she takes my daughter to school a couple days a week. I do that. And I won't say whose fault it is. I feel like most of the time not mine, but sometimes we're running a little bit late. Just saying, maybe a few times it's mine. And we get in the car, and I realized recently, again, my anxiety goes up without realizing because I don't want her to be late. I'm speeding, I'm moving fast. Your pastor's speeding. I was just going a little bit over, right? And I'm moving fast, but here's what I realize. I can feel my anxiety going up when that happens. When you're running late to work, you feel it too. You know what breathing room is? Breathing room is sitting down. Imagine this. It's sitting down at the table with your family for a meal. Maybe not even every night, just like once a week or once a month. Let me just tell you this too. This is a long play. For some of you that are in a different season of parenting than the season that I'm in, we have 3 children that are out of the house. This is the long play. If you want one day for your adult children to want to come back to the table, then put your small children at the table today. And I know it's chaotic. I know it's challenging. And you're chasing ball practices and all the things. But it's breathing room. Breathing room is when you have money at the end of the month. And not just because you made a clerical error. You're like, whoa, wow. It's space. Breathing room is a few less activities for our kids. It's a few less hours at work so that we can have a little more peace. Let me tell you what we do, and we don't even know we're doing it. Sometimes we're trading peace for progress because we've been sold the lie that progress is at the epicenter of all things. Breathing room is being able to sit in church and focus. It's being able to sit in a moment of prayer and not just be working on your mental to-do list and then think squirrel, 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 squirrel. Like in the book of Matthew where it isn't praying, God, please, and squirrel, squirrel. Breathing room gives us a space to do that. And here's the thing, as I'm talking about this, I know you'll agree, life is better with breathing room. Like it just is. So the question is, then why don't we all have it? What is the reason? Some of you, if I could pass the mic around, you'd say, that's cute, preacher, but you don't understand how the real world works. Like in my industry, it's just the industry. This is what you have to do. Pastor, maybe you don't have 3 small children. Maybe you don't have 4 small children. Pastor, maybe you don't understand the realities of how busy life is. This is just the way it is. Maybe some of you would say, hey, the reason, maybe you'd be honest enough to admit, the reason that I run at this pace is because I'm a workaholic. I kind of like it. I find I derive some significance from doing this. But let me just say this. I think if we could get honest, and if we could peel back the layers, the real reason underneath why we don't have breathing room, it's found in these 4 little letters. It's fear. It's fear, for example, it's fear of missing out. Like we fear that we're going to miss an opportunity, that our kids are going to miss an opportunity. Like what if we don't get them signed up for every single thing? We're going to miss the job opportunity. We're going to miss the promotion opportunity. We're going to miss the opportunity to be in that friend circle if we don't go to the thing. We're going to miss the opportunity to go to that school or to get that scholarship. We fear running out of money. This is real. It's funny. It's not funny, it's just real. We live in one of the most affluent places in human history and times in human history, yet most of us feel this. We're afraid we're going to run out of money. And that's real. Now statistically, most of us will run out of time before we run out of money, but this is how we feel. We have a fear that we're going to run out, so we run harder and we run to the limits and we push to the edge. Sometimes we have a fear of falling behind. It's interesting, though, falling behind who? Falling behind what? Culture's baited us into the comparison. Like compared to them, I'm falling behind. Compared to who? Compared to what God teaches? Compared to what God is up to in the world? Or compared to what your neighbor's doing? Or what social media or the marketing strategies have told you? I love how Dave Ramsey says this, talking about the comparison trap. He says, what we end up doing is we end up spending money that we don't have to impress people that we don't even like. You're like, I don't even like my neighbor. My car's nicer than his. It baits us in. The fear of not being accepted. This is real. Every human has an innate desire to be accepted. And if we're not careful, if it doesn't drive us towards God for that acceptance, we'll end up doing things, we'll end up dressing in certain ways, we'll end up absorbing certain identities, all in an effort to be liked. We just want someone to see us and someone to accept us. Here's one. What about the fear of not mattering? This one, if I can just be vulnerable, this one is a challenge for me. We're going to talk about this more in part 4, but isn't it true that some of us, like, we want to matter? Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that I invested the majority of my time or energy or talents or whatever in something that ultimately in the big picture does not matter. And so what we end up doing is we fill the space with busyness and accomplishments and accolades and attaboys and wherever we're finding that affirmation from, because we don't want to not matter. And so the question is, what's the antidote? Like, if we need breathing room in our lives, and if underneath it somewhere oftentimes fear is the culprit, then what is the antidote? Now, if I were to ask you in this room, what is the opposite of fear? We may not all get to the same answer immediately, but I think as we work through it, eventually we would come to some version of this. We'd say that the opposite of fear is courage. Like, if I'm afraid, then I need to be courageous, but it's actually not. The opposite of fear is actually trust. And this is what God talks about. He talks about this idea of trust. And I would just tell you, ultimately, breathing room in your life and in my life, it's not an issue of courage, it's an issue of trust. And when you and I lean in and begin to trust God, and I know that we are in all different spaces and places when it comes to our ability to trust God. But when we begin to trust God, it actually bakes into our lives courage. It's interesting what happens, though, when if fear is the main culprit behind why we rush to all these things and we have no breathing room, then I would just submit today that trust is the antidote. So God speaks to this issue all throughout the Scriptures. It's baked into how he teaches his people in the Old Testament, and Jesus then in the New Testament, how he teaches people to live, how he teaches them to see life. And I want to give just today as an overview, again, biblical framework as we start. I want to give 3 Old Testament examples of how this idea of breathing room was baked into the way that God wanted his people to live, think, and function. Now, when Israel, God's chosen people, were delivered from Egypt, if you know any of the story, they were a slave nation. They had been slaves for 400 years. So when they are delivered now, you have a whole generation of people who do not even know how to think like free people. They only know how to take directives. They had no laws of their own. They only did what they were told. Like, they literally, none of them had a memory where they weren't being told what to do. And so this mindset of slavery had infiltrated them. And so what God does is one of the first things on the scene when the children of Israel are no longer a part of the slavery of Egypt is God says, hey, I want to set a new culture in place. I want to give you a new mindset. He said, I want to give you some new laws that will frame how you function and how you think. And these laws had baked into them breathing room for his people. Now I want to give you, again, just 3 examples. So the first one is something that we know of as Sabbath. Now some of you have heard of this. You know what this is. It's a day of rest. Now, in our culture, it's normative. Like, most of us have a 2-day weekend. Like I don't have to convince you to take a day off. Maybe some of you work a little more than you should, but like, we're kind of used to this. But the culture where God set this in motion and he talked to them about Sabbath, this was a foreign idea. And it wasn't just a foreign idea. It was actually dangerous to them, because they had no refrigeration, they had no preservatives. This was a hand-to-mouth culture. In other words, we only eat whatever we kill. We only eat whatever we harvest for the crops. So for them to take a day off, it literally could be a life and death thing. So they had no concept for this. And so into that culture, in the book of Exodus, this is what God speaks. He says, I want you to remember the Sabbath day. He's introducing it. I want you to remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. And when he says holy, he means set apart. There's one day that is to function different than the other days. It says 6 days, you shall labor and do all your work, but on the 7th day, it's a Sabbath, it's rest. To the Lord your God, it's kind of set apart to God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. He's saying, hey, no exceptions. It's like, I know what you guys are going to do. You're going to like, well, I'm resting, but then you're going to do a workaround. Like, and then you got your employees, or you got your son or your daughter, or you got your equipment working. He says, I want you to stop from all work for a day. And then God sets it as an example. He doesn't just tell them what to do. He says, hey, I'm going to show you that this was baked in as an example as well. And this is what it says. He continues. He says, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens. He's reflecting back to creation. He made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath. There was a unique blessing God placed on it. He blessed the Sabbath day and he made it holy. He set it apart. Now, let me just say, I don't know what you hear or what you think when you read this. For some of you, this takes you back to Sunday school. Some of you perhaps have never read any of this. But God didn't rest because he was tired. It wasn't like he's like, whew, this creation stuff just wore me out, you know? Like, I need a nap. Like, I need an energy drink. Like, whoo, I am tired. The God of creation, the all-powerful God, was not tired. He didn't need nap time. This was set as an example for us. This is what God was doing. He was creating an example. And let me just say, if you can think about this, God, out of the gate, when he's reframing the culture of the way that his people will think, he says, hey, one of the top 10 things that I want you to do is take a day off. Let me just say, what's not to like about that God? Like, first thing out of the gate, he's like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. You need to take a day off. You can't redline this thing. You need breathing room. He was baking into the way that they think to say, hey, you need breathing room. This is normal for us in some ways. We find other ways to overwork. But the idea of a day off, we're like, this is normal. But this was revolutionary for them. The idea of Sabbath, the way it would work, is from sundown one night to sundown the next night. They literally would not do anything. This 24-hour period. And the idea was you just breathe. You rest. And this was part of God helping people to learn what he already knew about them, that you can't run to the limits. Eventually you will break, or you will break something if you run to the limits. This is ultimately, though, it was about trust. Because he was telling this group of people, you need to trust. They're like, well, God, I don't know if you've been watching, God, but like, what if we don't get all the crops? Like, we're not going to eat. We're not going to be able to feed our families. Like, I know. I want you to trust me. What if we don't milk the cows? What if we don't get everything done? He's like, I know, but no, I want you to trust me. It was this invitation, not only to them, but Jesus reestablishes Sabbath later. It was an invitation, and it's an invitation to us to trust God. That he's going to do in this time frame, he's going to do with our 6 days what we could never do with even 7 days. It's this invitation to say, I'm going to trust, I'm going to rest, I'm going to trust that the world is not going to fall off its axis if I rest and don't clear out my inbox. If I don't get all the things done, if my daughter doesn't make it to all the different activities, if all the things don't happen, if I don't hit the number, if I don't make the team, if I don't get the scholarship, just trust that God is in control and that God can actually do it. In fact, when we jump over to the New Testament, Jesus arrives on the scene and he reinforces this idea of Sabbath. And he talks about it in a different way because the religious leaders of that day had taken these laws and these things and they had missed the original intent. And they had taken Sabbath and they made it legalistic and they made it about performance and they made it about behavior and they made it about God's approval. And you got to do this for God, you got to do this for God. And into that, missing the original intent, Jesus says, hey guys, I want to take you back. And this is what he says about Sabbath. He says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He's saying, hey guys, you need this. They had made it about like this holiness of God, which was all true, but he said, hey, listen, God doesn't need a break. He didn't need a nap then. He doesn't need a nap now. This is not about God. This is about God understanding you, and this is about you understanding you. I tell people all the time, Sabbath is not about taking a nap. Sabbath is not about taking a break from your phone. That stuff's all fine. It can be a part of it. When we think Sabbath, we think about taking a rest from work, and that's a part of it. But Sabbath is not just rest from work. Sabbath is trust in God. It's resting in God. It's taking a break from, and it's trusting in. The two things are connected. And honestly, most of us don't trust in his ability to sustain us, present company included. In fact, the times in my life where I've ignored these principles, and I have, every time, you know what's underneath it? Fear. Oh, what if I don't get it done? Well, what if I don't do this? You know what's underneath it? I don't trust. Like, ultimately, we're trusting in his ability to sustain us, and truthfully, most of us don't. We trust in our own ability to sustain us. We trust in the American dream and the American reality to sustain us. Second one that he baked into kind of the way that this group of people would think is something that we know of as the tithe. Now, some of you are uncomfortable already. You can relax. This is not a giving message. Now, some of you didn't grow up in church. Some of you did. Tithe simply means 10%. And this was a very similar principle to the Sabbath principle. It was saying, hey, God would say, hey, you're going to take 10%. And you're going to store it. They didn't have banks. You're going to store it in your house, and then you're going to do two things with it. You're going to use it to support the temple system, their religious system of the day, and to support through them and in other ways those that were marginalized and those that needed help. But they would store this up in their house, and God was basically saying, hey, instead of living on 100% of what you got, I want you to live on 90%, and I want you to trust me. And I want you to trust that I can do more with 90 than you're going to do with 100. To which they would say the same thing as us. And this was about their money, and this was also about all of their stuff, their crops, everything that they had. And this was like, they would push back too, same way we do, and go, well, I kind of need 100%. In fact, statistically, most of us are living over the 100. You're like, I can't do it. And God's saying, I know, but I want you to trust me. I want you to trust that I can do more with a 90 than you'll do with 100. And I want you to trust that collectively, when all those 10s come in my direction, that I will do more good with the 10 in the world than you would ever do with all of it. It's a trust issue. Now listen, I say this all the time as well. Tithe, like for some of you, this thing got twisted up somewhere along the way in churches, and maybe you had a bad experience and some pastor embezzled or whatever the story is, and tithe has got twisted and it's become about money. But tithe was never about money. It was always about trust. It was about trusting God then, and it's about trusting God now. It's saying, God, I'm going to trust that you'll do more with the margin created. You'll do more with the 90 than I can do with 100. And this group of people, we won't get into it today, they weren't just giving 10. There were 3 tithes. And one of them was every 3 years. So they were given, their norm was like 23.3%. So we've said enough about that. You're like, guys, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. All right, third law that was baked in to this culture. And it was referred to 2 different ways. This is one of them. It was called the law of gleaning. Now, again, this was a hand-to-mouth culture. And so they used everything. Farmers that would, if they were in the fields and they were gleaning, they would take all their crops, they would use it for themselves, and anything left over, they were going to put it to the market and use it because, again, they were poor in a way that we can't imagine poor. They were just selling their crops to survive. And into that culture, I want to read 2 passages of what God says. It says, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. The gleanings are the part that would fall. And if you're poor and something falls, what do? You pick it up. Like 5-second rule, right? We're going to sell that. We're going to use that. And God said, hey, if it falls to the ground, just leave it. And I don't want you to go all the way to the edges. And he continues. He says this. He says, leave what falls to the ground and to the edges, and do not go over your vineyards a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and for the foreigner. Now, I want to say this. This is interesting that even while God was baking into the way that an entire culture of people would think, he was baking in breathing room. I just want to make mention of this in relationship to the larger kind of cultural narrative. He was also baking into this taking care of people. Like this was the thing that God did. And again, I'm not going to camp out here today, but I just think this is important to know that you'll see this over and over and over again, that God said, I want you to take care of the widows, the orphans, the poor, and the foreigners among us. Like, we could all argue about the best way to do that and what the legal process needs to be, but the thing that no follower of Jesus should argue about is whether or not it is our responsibility to take care of foreigners among us. And he built this in. In fact, he said this, when there's breathing room for you and you leave some, our breathing room forces us to trust God, and it invites others to the table at the same time. This is what that breathing room does. And then I want you to listen to how he finishes this. He says, I am the Lord your God. Now, if you read all of this, it's very clear what we're talking about, harvesting and leaving extra. And then it almost feels like he changes the subject at the end. Like he introduces a new idea. Like at the end of this, he tags on, and I am the Lord your God. Seems like it's completely disconnected. but it's very connected. These two thoughts. What God is saying, hey, you can leave some of what you thought was exclusively yours, and you can leave some of what you thought you needed. And the reason you can do it is because I can be trusted. Like, I can do more with less. And I'm going to do something in you, and I'm going to do something around you. I can be trusted. Similarly, in a passage in Deuteronomy, it says the same thing again. It says, when you're harvesting your field and you overlook a sheaf, it's like a bale. Like I grew up where we would put bales of hay on the back of a truck, and if one falls off, you know what you do? You put it back on. He said, no, if one falls off the truck, or the camel, or the goat, I don't know what they were loading them on. Like, just leave it there. He said, I don't want you to pick it up. He said, if a sheaf falls off, don't go back and get it. Leave it for the foreigner and the fatherless and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you and all the work of your hands. This is God saying, hey, trust me. I want you to trust me. I don't want you to spend it all on yourself. I don't want you to keep it all for yourself. I want you to work really hard. And then I want you to trust me with the edges. And essentially what God was saying is, I want you to take care of them, and in that margin, I will take care of you. The minute that I read this is where my mind went. I've told this story many times through the years, and it's a part of the culture of shaping what you're sitting in today as a church. When we were about a year old as a church, I remember how I was walking through the book of Acts, and I remember having this moment with God where God just broke my heart. Like, it was in the middle of, we're coming out of this, all the real estate meltdown, and the world was falling apart, and we were just launching the church, and the first thing that went out the window was discretionary giving, and so we were broke, and I'm like, I don't think we're going to make it to year 2 in this church plant. And here I am in my study, and God said, Chris, I want you to become the kind of church where people that you have served and you have loved, they would mourn your loss if you're gone. I'm like, God, we're about to be gone. Like, if we give more money, they're going to mourn our loss a little quicker, you know? And in that season, we just said, man, we've got to make a decision of who we're going to be. And we're not going to preserve. We're not going to just protect us. And we're going to try and, reach out. And this sounds noble, but I'm going to tell you the scary parts of this story. We started something. We did something at that time that we called the Now Project. That's a younger, skinnier, less gray version of myself that could have been in a 90s rock band, all right? The Now Project was like just us saying, all right, how can we lean into the houseless community within our city? And so we did this huge initiative, raised a bunch of money, had all kind of goods and supplies came in, went downtown, uptown Charlotte, and did this event, had tons of houseless people come through. We gave them meals to go, gave them all kind of supplies and coats and goods, supported 2 homeless shelters, and did some incredible things. We had conversations with them. We stopped. We prayed with them. And then when we were done, we took all these bags that we had formed, and we said, now go. And the next part of the conversation was called Now Go. And we said, hey, we want you to take these bags with all these supplies. We want you to put it in your car. When you see someone, we want you to put it in their hands and tell them, hey, you're not forgotten. God remembers you. For those of you that have been around our church a little while, it sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? This was the 1.0 version of what we now do with our 4U bags. We have these bags that we tell people, hey, keep one in your car, give one to the houseless, to the homeless, pray for them, get their name. And this was really the beginnings of it. And it was a remarkable time. In that season, we were not making budget. This is the behind the scenes. And we gave away more than comes in 1 month in this event. And that sounds amazing. Yay, God. But on Monday morning, here's what your non-spiritual pastor was doing. I was stressed. Like, I was certainly grateful. I'm like, God, this is it. This is it. And then I was like, and this is it? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, at that season in our journey, like, it was always just a toss-up of whether we were going to get a paycheck or not. Half the time, we didn't get paychecks. And I'm like, God, this is like God stuff. But, God, I don't know how wise this was, because I think we're not going to even get paychecks, and I don't know if we're going to survive. That month was the first month in our history as a church that we hit our budget. And over $1 million later invested into our community partners, global partners, marginalized, the needs within our community, needs within people that arrived in our church, taking care of electric bills, and you name it, things that you'll never hear from this stage. It's continuing to happen because we have learned, and we're learning, that God can be trusted. And when he says, you take care of them and I'll take care of you, he means it. These last 3 years, for a lot of reasons I won't get into today, were some of the most difficult for us financially as a church. And it's tempting in those seasons, just like it is for you and your household. It's tempting to go into kind of like self-protection mode. But we didn't even consider it. Like, there was no way we were going to stop doing what we were doing with our partners. There was no way we were going to stop doing what we were doing in the community. In fact, we picked up new community partners in this season. Again, because we learned, and we're still learning, that God can be trusted. Let me tell you what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to be irresponsible. But I do think sometimes creating margin for ourselves that ends up creating margin for others, it requires us to be uncomfortable. I'll close with this thought. So Jesus walks into a culture that understands, and I just talked about 3 kind of laws or 3 ideas that were baked in to the way that God taught his people to think. But Jesus walks into this culture, and he walks into a group of people that understand these laws. They understand all this, and he says something to them that on the surface it feels really trite. In fact, it probably was kind of irritating and surfaced some emotions. This is what he says. He says, so do not worry. Like, have you ever had somebody tell you not to worry? You're like, thanks, that's not helpful. Like, he says, so don't worry. I know you guys are stressed about stuff. Their culture was stressed. We're stressed. He says, don't worry. Saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what are we going to wear? Now, let me just pause and say, every time I read that last phrase, here's what I hear. What would I wear? Every time, like I was studying and I heard the Grinch, I'm like, there it is. So from now on, when you read this passage, you're going to hear it as well. He says this, like all these things that you're worrying about, these things that are grabbing your attention. He goes on to say, he says, for the pagans run after these things. He's saying the people with no God, the people with a false God, that's what they do. These are their marching orders. They're being consumed by these things. In other words, he's saying to be consumed by these things is a godless way to live, because a godless group of people don't have a God that they will trust. And it all comes back to trust. Essentially, being consumed with these things puts us in a category that none of us really want to be in. And then this next part is for us. He says, and your heavenly Father, your God, he knows that you need them. God knows what you need. God knows what your spouse needs that you can't be the fulfillment of. God knows what your kids need that you can't afford. God knows what your boss needs that you can't meet the deadline of. God knows the cost of living in our world. You're like, but Jesus, you know about inflation? He's like, yeah, I'm aware. I got it. He knows what you need. And this is this kind of thing that Jesus is hinting at, is that oftentimes, I think we can skate on this little thin piece of ice. Oftentimes, isn't it true that we're living as if he doesn't know? And this gentle invitation of Jesus is like, hey, what if you lived as if I do know and that I am capable? What if you trust me that the strange math that creates margin and breathing room in your life will work? What if you trust me with a strange math that 6 days, like I'm going to get 7 worth of work done? What if you trust me that with 90%, I'm going to get 100% of the things done, and I'm going to do more with the 10% that's collectively coming in than you could ever begin to imagine? And in your breathing room, as you trust what God might do. And he says this, he says, it ends this way, but seek first his kingdom. You know what his kingdom is? It's everything God is up to and that breaks his heart in this world. You know what his kingdom is? It's how he has instructed us to live, including all these ideas of breathing room. That's his kingdom. He says, and seek first his kingdom. Like choose his way even if it's harder. And all these things, what things? Eating, drinking, clothes, all the stuff that we need. He says all these things will be given to you as well. This is what he's saying. He's saying, hey, look up here. Trust me. Hey, eyes up front. God's saying, eyes up front. I got it. I can do it. He's already told you to work hard. This isn't sit on the couch. He said, hey, 6 days, you're going to be working. You're getting after it. But I want you to trust me that in the margin that you create in your life, that I can do it. I can sustain you. And let me just tell you, when God says, hey, I can sort out the rest, if you put your eyes on me, he will. And this kind of mentality invites breathing room. You all have limits. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Some of us have different limits than others. If you've ever been, sometimes I feel like when I'm in a circle, it's like everybody else seems to have a much higher limit than me. You ever felt like that? But we all have limits. And you will either allow culture to drive you past your limit and put you in a red zone, or we'll pull back and embrace these easy to understand but hard to do principles of breathing room that our Heavenly Father, who, by the way, created you and me and knows what is best for you and me, and these breathing room things will be the limits that God has invited us to put into our life that create margins, that create structure and breathing room. His words are countercultural, but the question ultimately is, will you trust him? So for the next few weeks, we're going to talk about some specific areas where we can bring breathing room. We're going to talk about our schedules. We're going to talk about money. It's not going to be about money, how to give to the church. It's going to be about how to create margin within your resources as God kind of frames it out. And we're going to talk about relationships. So this is the question that I want to leave you with. Where do you need some breathing room? Like as you think about this message, like where do you need some breathing room? What's stressing you out? Like, what's the thing that's taking you past your limit? Perhaps part of the work that we need to do is go, hey, what is the fear underneath this? As I read the list, or maybe you had one that I didn't say on the list that you know is yours. What's the fear underneath it? But ultimately, the question I want you to sit with as we lead into next week is, where do you need some breathing room? And then I want to explore, is that a space or place in which God can actually be trusted? Let me pray for us. Father, you're good. You want what is good for us. And God, you know what is good for us even when we've bought into something that was not from you. So I pray that even in this series, God, perhaps even today, you would start to peel back the layers of that. And God, you would just give us the ability to move in some simple ways, God, towards trusting you. I pray for those that in this room wrestle with whether or not you can be trusted. I pray that you would show to them that you are trustworthy. In fact, that there is no greater place, no place greater, or no one more worthy of trust than you are. So, Father, will you free us up? I pray that your word would awaken us and empower us, and I pray that we would live our lives different as a result. We love you. In Jesus' precious and powerful name we pray. Amen. All right, breathing room. Next 3 weeks, it's going to be good. It's going to be challenging. I want to give you, just if I could take another couple minutes with you, I want to point you to something, all right? So I want to show you these groups, and if it feels like I'm pushing you towards these, it's because I'm pushing you towards these. I just think it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal to be circled up. So a grown-up guide to kids wiring, there are 2 of these groups that have on-site childcare. It is for pay, but it's on-site, and it's this one, a grown-up guide to kids wiring, and If Money Talk. Now this one is going to be great for parents. If you're a teacher, if you're an educator in any way, shape, or form, if you're a coach, if you're working with teenagers or children, you need to come to this. It's an incredible conversation to have. This one, If Money Talk, this is not just for people that are broke, it's for people that are breathing. You got it? I'm telling you, and this is not a how to give to your church either. This is how to wrap your resources and the way that you think about your life and your money around God's principles on this, and it is absolutely game-changing. These 2 should be filled up first. I'm just telling you. All right, Goliath Must Fall. This is for our young adults. This is 18 to 25. We're kicking off some sessions for them. That's going to be a great time. That's going to be up in the Collective Cafe. Winning the War in Your Mind. You can go and find the further descriptions on all of these, and they're different links and different. This one is co-ed. Whoever wants to come to this one, great study. Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. This is a little bit deeper dive. If some of you feel like you've stalled in your faith a little bit, this is the one. This is going to push you a little bit further. Great study. 7 is a men's group. It's going to meet in the mornings. Quest, there's 2 different versions of that are women's studies that are going to go as a part of our women's ministry. So go look at these, get signed up for one. If you want to ahead of time, then plan to stay 10 minutes afterward next week. Most of those groups will start between 7 to 10 days after next Sunday. So, hey, there's so many exciting things going on. Go out there and get some coffee tasters. Have some fun with that. We love you guys. Come back next week. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.